What's up, class of 2021? I hope you guys are doing well. Hope the year's kicked off good. This is the September 16th College Placement Discussion Series event. I'm going to go through the forms today. Today's going to be all about the forms, all right? So we're going to go through kind of in a frequently asked question structure. I'm going to try to explain this as much detail as possible so you guys understand it, but I know there's going to be questions and we'll be here to tackle them. All right, so the first thing is, what are the forms that you guys need to submit? You want to get your council rec out, you want to get your transcript out, you guys want to get your teacher recs out, all that stuff. So what do you need to do? There are two forms, all right? The first is the transcript and college counselor recommendation request form, all right? And the other form that we have is the teacher recommendation request form. So I know they look similar and there are some similarities, but they are a little bit different, all right? So next FAQ is, what do I need to do to be able to submit these? All right. On the top of each of these, I explained that there are steps. Okay. Always go in order, guys. Go in order. All right. At the top of the form, it says, prior to submitting this form, you must submit your brag sheet. We've talked about this in the discussion series in March or April that I sent out with the video. I explained brag sheet needs to be done. Filling out the FERPA waiver and also matching your Common App with Naviance. These may be things you might have seen or they may be new, but you'll tackle it as you go. And a part of this session is there are notes. So I'm going to send you guys the notes which break down each of these individual steps so you know, okay, how do I match my Common App with Naviance? Where do I fill out the FERPA waiver? Things like that, okay? So on the form you can see, there's submission policies and deadlines. You can read through those. It also explains a little bit of what happens after you submit the forms. All right. Down here, you can see it asks you for colleges and universities. If you are going and applying to more than 10, just add another form to the back of it, or submit another form with it. The decision type here, it explains, all right, when are you applying? Regular decision, early action, early decision, all that stuff. And the application deadline. This is important because we know what your intentions are. We know where you're applying. We know when you're applying. We know how you're applying. And then we can prioritize our writing as college counselors and also track what's going on. We're invested in your process, so we want to know what's happening. All right. For the teacher recommendation request form, all right, you will see at the top, what do you need to do? Prior to submitting this form, you must. This is important. It says at the top, submit your transcript and college counselor recommendation request form to your college counselor. All right. There is an order to this. Your counselor request form comes first. Your teacher request form comes second. All right. Counselors first, teacher second. It's very important. So there is an order to it. Okay. Always remember that. The next thing that you can see is you have to ask your teacher 2 weeks before the deadline. For most of you, this shouldn't be an issue. In the spring, I told you guys before you go into the summer, you should be locking up 2 teachers just verbally. And I told you later on I would tell you about the forms and procedures, which is where we are now. All right? Then after that, it tells you what to do in Naviance. So you can give the teacher the capability to upload their letter and send on your behalf. So there's a couple things there. And once again, they're in the notes to explain how that process goes. All right. There's some teacher policies down here, and you'll see similar form deadline. The overwhelming majority of forms and things can be sent via Naviance. Okay. But there are some that might be portals or not accessible in that way. We'll take those as we come, but you'll just know that the majority are going to go through Naviance. All right. So how do you submit these forms? All right. First, for the transcript and college counselor recommendation request form, this has to be submitted via email to your college counselor. If you have Mr. Laster, that's me, and Mr. Filato, those forms will be emailed to Mrs. Farley. Okay. If you have anyone else, Mr. Canella, Mr. Vitale, Mr. McKenna, Mr. Barnett, Mr. Scheich, those forms will have to be emailed directly to them. Okay? So that is how everything we're doing this year is electronic. And part of the reason we're doing this discussion series virtual and in video format is we're keeping everything virtual. If it changes down the road, that's great. Okay. Other things for teachers, you can email your forms directly to them as well. Okay, so everything will be pretty much electronic, right? I told you about the order. Counselor form first, teachers second. One of the number one most important questions that I get from students is, Mr. Lasser, what can I submit my forms before I apply to colleges? Yes, 100% yes. We want you to submit your forms as soon as possible. All right. That allows us to get all of your documents out to the colleges that you're going to be applying to. There is no order with sending different items. It doesn't matter if a college gets your test score first. It doesn't matter if they get your transcript first. There's no order. Eventually, everything will pair up in your file. So our view is we don't need you to apply to send this stuff. We want to get everything there as soon as possible. So when you apply, everything just matches up. As little stress as possible. We want you guys to focus on what's important, what you can control, which is your applications, your writing, and you can heavily leverage your college counselors with that. All right, we're all searching for the same thing, quality. All right. All right, so what are the deadlines? For both of the teacher request forms and the transcript and college council recommendation request forms, the deadline for any student that is applying to any college with a November 30th deadline or back, or call it December 1st or back, is October 9th. All right. Now, I know that's like, whoa, that's right around the corner. That's a few weeks. Don't get anxious about it. Okay. There's not a whole lot that you need to do to be able to submit these forms, believe it or not. All right. We extended the deadline from last year. It was October 1st. Now it's the 9th. I know the year started later. I know there's a lot going on. We're dealing with a global pandemic, and our processes here have changed. So we want to be sensitive to that. And that gives you more than enough time. Okay. So October 9th, for any school that has a deadline after that, it's basically by December 1st, you would need to have your forms in. Okay. Sorry. So what happens after you submit the forms? Okay. You submit the form to, let's say it's Mr. Vitale. Okay. After that, you can feel really good or pretty much certain that Mr. Vitale will send your council recommendation, your transcript, our school profile, and a couple other cover forms to that college by that deadline. Okay. Your teacher, you can trust that they will send your recommendation by that deadline. All right. Then in Naviance, you will see your colleges that you apply to section will populate. You'll be able to track materials. It'll show if your teacher submitted or if it's just in progress and they haven't submitted, or if your counselor has submitted, transcript submitted, you'll be able to track that stuff. Okay. So that's kind of the next part of it. All right. The other thing I want to go through, the teacher form is a little bit different. As counselors, we have your brag sheet. Our job is to look at the full picture of who you are. You can send us anything in terms of things that might have happened over the summer, you name it. We also have our meetings with you. For teachers, they may need a little bit more. All right. On the teacher form, if you scroll down, there's two pages to it. And they want as much detail as possible about the class. The teacher's job is to focus on talking about how you interact with students in the classroom, how you perform in the classroom, everything about the classroom. If they can dive deeper into how you did with subject matter and what you want to major in college and how that translates, that's awesome. You want to be as detailed as possible with what you give teachers, okay? I have teachers every year that say, look at what this student gave me. How can they expect that I'm going to write a dynamic recommendation about them? And I'll say, well, that's not a lot, right? So just like you did, be with the brag sheet, be as detailed as possible for what you give your teachers. Feel free to ask them if they need anything outside of that. Remember, the more you give in this process, the more you get, all right? Colleges don't accept you, they accept your file. So we're trying to have the best possible presentation of who you are. All right. Outside of that, we will continue with these events throughout the year in video series, like along the timeline. I will send, you'll have this video as a resource. Your college counselors will be reaching out soon, and in the next week to 2 weeks, you're going to have a breakout session. So it's kind of like in college, you have a lecture, and then you have this little baby, recitation or discussion where you kind of hash out questions and make sure there's no problems with this, which is the lecture. So they will reach out to you. You'll have a virtual session where you can, hash out any questions on these forms and processes. I'll certainly be in contact with you in the future about other things. And outside of that, I wish you guys well. I'm looking forward to, despite all these circumstances, having an outstanding year with the college process. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.